A very good evening to you, wherever it is that you are watching us from this 8th of May 2020. You know what happens every year, May 8th. It's Mother's Day, and tonight we are celebrating all the mothers around the world, alive or not. We still celebrate you because you are important and matter a lot to us. And on that note, on our show tonight, Family Matters, we celebrate the unsung heroes as far as mothers are concerned, the fight of COVID-19, and these are midwives. They ensure the safety, security, and health of mothers during delivery and, of course, during the taking care of the newborns as well. So tell us where you're watching this news from, the show from at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News, of course. How do you remember your mom? What are the best moments? Who are you celebrating this day? Your views and feedback, well, much welcomed. Of course, tonight, as we celebrate Mother's Day as a country, we are also celebrating the discharge of more 32 people, the highest number since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the country, and this making the total number of recoveries to over 239. Let's now get the latest. Today, the samples that were tested in the last 24 hours for COVID-19 were 1,056, and from those samples, we had 23 people testing positive for COVID-19 and 32 people being discharged from hospitals after recovering from COVID-19, the highest number the country has recorded so far. And we also had 2 people dying from the virus from Mombasa County, bringing the total number of fatalities to 32. And of course, many people have been asking, why do we still have high cases? Because the total number of cases right now stand at about 673. So those are the total number of cases of COVID-19 in the country right now. But when you subtract the recoveries, which are now 239, plus the 32 people who have died from the virus, then we remain with about 402 active cases of COVID-19. We have details of that and much more. Once again, welcome to this broadcast, and I remind you to interact with us. I will be glad to read your samples, and of course, even tagging us the name of your mom. We will be recognizing your mom right here live on Channel 1 Weekend. As usual, the highlights.
Registered the highest number of people who have recovered from the disease. We have discharged 32 people from hospital.
Mixed fortunes as a record 32 COVID-19 patients discharged, with 23 more testing positive for the disease. We highlight the challenges faced by mothers as the world marks Mother's Day.
The whole country is now fully aware of why we need technology. We're doing all these video conferencing conversations. You know, people are working from their homes. We need to have all the right connectivity.
And Kenya unveils new data center at the Konsa Technopolis as it moves to tap into opportunities presented by emerging technologies. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on Channel 1 Weekend. My name is Purity Museo, and Lensa Odingo is our sign language interpreter tonight. Our top story: the country has today recorded the highest number of recoveries in a single day since the first case was reported. Within the last 24 hours, 32 people were discharged from various recovery centers after recording full recovery from coronavirus. However, 2 more people succumbed to the virus in Mombasa, with an additional 23 new cases reported out of 1,056 samples tested. On Sunday, the country recorded 32 new recoveries, the highest number in a single day since the first case was recorded.
This now brings to 239 the total number of recoveries from COVID-19. These recoveries indicate that it is possible to overcome the disease with proper management.
The Minister of Health having tested 1,056 samples over the last 24 hours, out of which 23 new cases were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 672.
22 of them are Kenyans and 1 is a Burundi national. The cumulative number of those who have tested positive in the country now stands at 672. The overall number of samples that have been tested in the country to date is 32,097.
Out of these new cases, 12 are from Mombasa, with Mvita recording 8 new cases, while Kisauni and Likoni recorded 2 cases each. Nairobi recorded 4 new cases, with Umoja recording 2 cases, while Komarok and Pipeline recorded 1 case each. The county of Mandera this time recording 6 new cases, with 3 from Mandera East and 1 each from Elwak, Mandera North and Mandera West. Saina Estate in Kajiado also recorded 1 case. Meanwhile, Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala has called on the Muslim community to be tolerant in the wake of strict guidelines announced by the government, as some of their rituals may be abandoned for the common good.
Those rituals and those traditions that we used to do of common eating in one plate, common feasting as a group and events, I think we must not continue with those rituals and those traditions, because they will affect the health of our colleagues.
The Ministry of Health is set to conduct an operation on Monday targeting eateries that have reopened without full compliance of set guidelines for reopening. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
And it was a welcome relief of 460 Kenyans on Sunday after they were facilitated back to the country from China, where they were stranded for months due to the COVID-19 lockdown. A KQ flight 883 from Guangzhou, China landed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at 2:50 a.m. Sunday morning amid cheer from the beneficiaries of the humanitarian flight. Beatrice Gatonyengetich reports.
The second KQ flight carrying people stranded abroad landed in the country early Sunday morning. 160 expatriates and business people jetted back to the country after months of staying grounded in various Chinese cities after a lockdown was imposed due to an outbreak of COVID-19. The flight is among several humanitarian flights mounted by the national carrier with the support of the Kenyan government to bring back home Kenyans who are stranded across different parts of the world.
In China for the last 5 years. I did not go there for business. I went there as a teacher, like majority of the Kenyans who have been stuck there. Schools have not returned even today. They have not resumed. Because we teach the small kids, and the only schools which have resumed are colleges, universities, and high schools.
I'm so happy because we have been quarantined for like 4 months, some of us 4 months, some of us 5 months. Not doing any job, not doing any business. We're just at home, doing nothing.
We are happy that they've been able to come, because we had to arrange this flight in very challenging circumstances.
The travel expenses for some of those who landed in the country on Sunday were met by Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko, who paid 10 air tickets for their flights from China.
I'm one of the people who are able to be evacuated or brought back from China by His Excellency Governor Sonko. And I want to take this opportunity to say my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to him.
I'm part of the team that Governor Sonko, you were kind enough to pay for us our air flight and also pay for us our quarantine. We are so very grateful because it's been a very hard time for us.
This coming as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs disclosed that a total of 744 people have been evacuated into the country, noting that out of the 62 people facilitated from London, 54 were Kenyans. In the meantime, Nairobi Metropolitan Health Workers have said they will be joining other health workers on the 18th of May for an industrial action if the government will not have addressed their demands. Led by the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Secretary Tom Nyakaba, the group asked the Ministry of Health to harmonize allowances of all health workers who are currently in the front line fighting COVID-19.
We fully support the forthcoming industrial action because the employer and our respective government, they are not heeding to what they are supposed to. They are allowing discrimination to continue. They are allowing to expose our members. And this one must come to an end. And we say this.
The ultimatum coming even as Nyandarua woman representative Faith Gitao decried open defiance of government regulations on COVID-19 by members of the public. The lawmaker charged that failure by majority of citizens to don face masks and embrace hygiene during this moment of outbreak will expose many to the contagion.
Naomba serikali itokee, itupatie hizi masks, ipatie wale watu wamechaguliwa masks ndio waweze kudistribute na huku kwa mashamba, kwa sababu ni watu wengi sana wako hawana mask.
Beatrice Gatonyengetich, Channel 1 News.
And a quick reminder, today it's Mother's Day. Tell us who you are celebrating this day at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. I'll be sampling your views before the till end of this broadcast. Of course, I'm seeing your views coming in, and there's someone who's saying that they are also celebrating the single fathers here. I'll be having a look at your feedback shortly. Let's stay with the COVID-19 update. Calls for Christians to remain steadfast as the nation battles coronavirus pandemic. Dominated fifth Easter Sunday church services with members of the clergy emphasizing on the need to hold on to the hope. During the services, the clergy called on the nation not to stigmatize those infected with the virus and instead support them on their way to recovery. The members of the clergy encouraging parents to await government directives on the reopening of schools, saying the safety and health of children should come first.
As millions of Christians followed Sunday services from the confines of their homes, owing to the risks posed by COVID-19 disease, the clergy, through their Sunday sermons broadcasted live, called for the nation to avoid stigmatizing those found positive of the virus, but instead offer them support to enhance the recovery.
But rather welcome them in our families and communities with love.
At Holy Family Basilica, Kenyans would be urged not to shy away from mass testing.
We also appeal to you to accept being tested. It is for your well-being. Let us also support those among us in need of food, clothing, and even shelter. We continue to urge all of us to continue observing the guidelines given to us by the Ministry of Health.
At the same time, parents were urged to take advantage of closure of schools to inculcate values into their children, to enable them grow into being responsible citizens.
Indeed, we would like our children to go back to school at the earliest opportunity. But dear parents, let us not forget that our children's health and safety comes first. Let us wait for directives from those managing the situation, and only take our children to school when it will be safe for them and for the academic staff and our staff in our institutions.
At All Saints Cathedral, Provost Sami Wainaina, who drew the day's preaching from the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 1 to 10 on kindness and humility, reminded those in despair of Christ's love during these trying times and urged Christians to cling on hope.
You can continue to enjoy God's salvation. For those who have never known the Lord Jesus Christ, or they knew but backslided and went away from his grace, he's still beckoning you to come and receive the power of his salvation. And that's what saves you from eternal death. The greatest tragedy is not to die. It is actually to die eternally and to be condemned. John says that he never came to condemn us. He came to save us. As we sing our meditation hymn, consider your life. Make a decision this morning. Kneel at your living room, and we'll pray with you this morning, either to dedicate yourself, either to return to God, or entirely surrender your life to Jesus Christ.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
The role a mother plays in her children's life is undeniable. Despite challenges she may face, she will rarely allow her children to see her pain, But the journey towards nurturing her children is never easy. As the world marked Mother's Day Sunday, Channel 1's Caroline Kamau visited Lunga Lunga slums and highlights the challenging yet inspiring story of a mother who almost gave up in life but found strength in her children. Take a look.
Now, the pride of any woman is to be able to take care of her children. But what happens when, for one reason or another, she cannot be able to do that? As we celebrate Mother's Day today, I take a look at the challenges of one such woman as she struggles to take care of her 4 children single-handedly. This modest one-roomed house is home to Sarah Kavere and her children. She traveled from Western Kenya to Nairobi in search of a better future for herself and her children.
Nilitoka nyumbani 2009 nikakuja Nairobi kufanya kazi ya house girl uko Rongai. Nikakaa uko Rongai, nikaona hiyo mshahara hainisaidii. Ilikuwa 3K. Nilianza na mshahara wa 3K.
During this time, her children were living separately with her various relatives. Due to frustrations, she decided to take her then 3 children home to her maternal grandmother. After doing various odd jobs, she would meet a good Samaritan. After sharing her story and struggles, the man asked her to bring her children to Nairobi, promising to help her enroll them in school.
Alichukua ngiri 5,000 akanipatia. Kaniambia hizi pesa uende ununue uniform, kila kitu ya watoto. Alafu utafute shule mahali wanaweza enda. Yenyewe nilifanya vile huyo mdozi aliniambia. Nikaenda kuuliza shule iko hapa St. Elizabeth. Wakaniambia haina shida, niingize watoto.
She was employed as the house help in his family home, but this too did not last.
Ilifika mahali nikagonjeka tu homa. Hasa vile niligonjeka homa, huyo mama akaniambia niende hosi. Nikaenda hosi, akanipea 1,000, nikaenda hosi. Akaniambia ni sawa, enda kwa nyumba nitakupigia simu ile siku utakuja kazini. Nikamwambia ni sawa. Nikakuja hapa. Kukaa hapa, sasa nikajua Monday ninaenda kazini. Hasa kufika Sunday usiku, akanipigia simu karibu saa 3, akaniambia usiingie kazi, bwanangu amekata.
Another job came calling. A relationship with a man who promised to take care of her and her children seemed like her silver lining.
Tumekaa na huyo mwanaume akafika mahali, akasema hapana, mimi siwezi lea watoto wako, hata mimi nataka mtoto wangu. Nikaambia huyo mwanaume haina shida, kama ni kuzaa nitazaa. Enyewe nikashika mimba ya huyu mtoto. Bila nilishika boli ya huyu mtoto, huyo mwanaume alinionyesha maneno, vituko. Anaenda saa zingine hata alipi nyumba, madeni, amekopa pesa za wenyewe, na akafanya nini, na akaenda, na nikaachana naye kabisa.
She hit rock bottom.
Sasa maisha imekuwa ngumu, sina mbele wala nyuma, nimekaa tu ninaparara, nimekaa tu kama kashosho, hata mtu akiniangalia sifai. Sifai kabisa. Hapo mahali hata nilikuwa ninalala, mtu anaweza fikiria huyu mtu analala, lakini usiku silali. Ile nafikiria tu niende kwa kaburi, afadhali niache watoto.
And just when she thought she had seen it all, her family would be hit by ill health.
17 ikifika mwezi wa 8, ugonjwa ilikuja kwa hii nyumba. Ugonjwa ilikuja kwa hii nyumba. Mpaka nilikuwa nashangaa, ni nini mbaya? Nimekosea Mungu nini? Huyu ndiye alianza, akaanza tu tumbo inaniuma, after tumbo kichwa. Mtoto sasa akaanza kukonda kama kitu kingine. Na hapo sasa sina kazi, sina mbele wala nyuma.
With her health and that of her children restored, she went into self-employment and things were looking up until Kenya reported her first case of COVID-19.
Sasa vile ilifika wakati wa corona imeingia, hasa biashara sasa ikaanza kukuja sasa kidogo. Ukipika hiyo mandazi hakuna makastoma. Wenye watafanya nini? Wenye watanunua. Mtu anakuambia sina pesa, nikopeshe. Ukikopesha mtu na wewe kwa nyumba utakula nini? Na watoto wanataka kukula, nyumba yenyewe inataka kulipwa.
Thanks to the KBC newsroom family, her children will have something to eat.
abate for a few days, but other bills are still pending.
Hata saa hii ile madeni niko nayo ni Mungu anajua. Hata landlord ametoka hapa ananidai karibu 7,000.
Despite her struggles, her children say their mother is the best thing that ever happened to them. If she had the money, her daughter Sharon says she would build her mother a home.
Zile challenges zenye ana face, unaweza muona ni mwanamke but akona ile nguvu na strength ya kuguide na kuonyesha hii kitu kiifanya utaachieve.
Kevin hopes God gives his mother life to continue guiding him and his siblings through life.
Napenda mama yangu sana. Yeye ndiye amefanya hadi nikafika niko saa hii. So nampenda na nafurahi anasherehekea Mother's Day leo. So naomba Mungu ampe maisha marefu.
For this family, it is their love for each other that binds them together, with Sarah calling on all mothers to brave the journey of life for the sake of their children.
Despite her struggles, Sarah Kavera's children give her the strength to fight on with life. For her children, she is the pillar that holds them together. To all mothers in this country, from me to you, it's Happy Mother's Day. Reporting from Kingston, Lungalunga, my name is Caroline Kamau.
And happy Mother's Day to you too, Caroline Kamau. George Musioki watching from Mombasa County, at Edgar Elirot watching from Mikindani, Mombasa, and I'm celebrating my beloved mom, Anna Emoit. All right, Noah Tanki, happy Mother's Day, moms. You deserve to have a nice and relaxing day. They do. Mama ni mama too, David Diva, that's what you're saying. And then Ruto Kip at Nelson Ruto. What a special day for our mother who has come forth despite grief, challenges in the family to nurture and take care of her children. At Martin, I celebrate my late mom, Jen Kina. She was truly an amazing mother. May she rest well. And finally, Givenchy Patrick, we celebrate every mom today. They are real angels. I'm celebrating those ladies who are not able to bear children, yet they take the responsibility to adopt and bring up those orphans as their own. That's very important. Keep your feedback and opinion coming. Tell us who you're celebrating today, this 8th, the Mother's Day, at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. Remember, we're also live on Facebook and YouTube. I will also have a look at your feedback on our Facebook page. As the world was caught up in celebrating mothers, many fathers who have assumed this role may have been left out. Channel 1's Safina Cheng shares the plight of Nicholas Awat, a father of 3 who had been forced to take up the responsibility of raising his 2-month-old twins single-handedly after losing their mom at childbirth. He now has to juggle between earning a living and playing the special role as a mother.
Nicholas Ouma Awat is a father of 3. He welcomes us to his single-roomed house in Kariobangi North, Nairobi. We meet Talia and Tamara, his last-born twins, who are 2 months old. At their tender age, ordinarily they would be in the care of their mother. But today, as the world is celebrating Mother's Day, their mother is no more. Still new into this world, the babies have had to adjust to being nurtured by their father, who is now assuming their mother's role. Nicholas lost his wife at childbirth. 2 months ago, his wife was due to deliver these bubbly twins. Nicholas was excited to welcome the new members of his young family. Little did he know that his wife will not be there long enough to see her babies.
Nikaenda theater, nikapata daktari hapo. Sandi akanielezea, akaniambia watoto wako sawa, lakini mama ndiye hakumeka. Kitu ya kwanza nilifikiria, nilisema ili hata watoto wangeenda, lakini yeye abaki. Unaona, juu nikijiangalia nilikuwa sema nitasurviveaje na watoto.
Taking up his wife's responsibilities while still mourning her was unexpected and would forever alter the course of his life.
Lazima wewe ndio ufanye. Wewe ndio baba, wewe ndio mama. Sasa niko napika chai, ni mtu anani understand, then chemsha maji na kuanguza hao watoto, then wachemsha hiyo maziwa yao na wapatia na wabadilisha. Sasa ilikuwa ngumu kabisa, lakini sasa ilikuwa inabidi.
On a day when the world was celebrating mothers, Nicholas says the loss of his wife has made him understand that being a mom comes with a great sacrifice.
Chenye nimeona Pumwani, naweza tu advise watu, kama uko na wife, mpatie heshima. Chenye wamama wanapitia, mimi nakwambia saa hii, sijui kama itatoka kwa akili yangu.
Adjusting to this new life has not been easy, and he appreciates those who have stood by him, even as he still struggles to come to terms with this harsh reality.
Kiamka asubuhi lazima umwaze. Lazima. Juu asubuhi ni mtu alikuwa anaamka 5, anafanya vitu zake za nyumba. Sasa hizo mimi lazima nifanye. Juu at least watoto pia wakue kwa environment yenye iko safi.
Nicholas now has to juggle between domestic chores and his tailoring job, which he says has been affected by the outbreak of coronavirus. His desire is to get a job that can earn him a stable income to enable him fend for his family.
At least kuna wale good Samaritan wamejaribu kunisaidia na maziwa nini, lakini hiyo hatafanya milele. Lazima life ya watoto iendelee. So lazima nirudi kazi. Sasa hizi pia hiyo kazi hakuna. Sasa tu kama naweza pata support ama kama mtu anaweza nipatia kazi sahi, at least hao watoto nione nibadilishe maisha yao.
Today he was lucky to get a group of well-wishers from Luak Girls Alumni Group who donated foodstuffs and other household items.
Nikikumbuka penye mama yao alipitia, siwezi waachilia. Lazima at least wa grow. Siku moja nitawapigia story.
The story of Nicholas represents the plight of thousands of Kenyans who are beating all odds to survive each and every day. On a special day like Mother's Day today, it is significant to remember even those who are surviving without mothers, families with single parents who are being raised under such unique circumstances. For Channel 1 News from Kariobangi North in Nairobi, I'm Safin Achieng Ouma.
Thank you, Safin. And of course, happy Mother's Day to fathers doubling up the role as a father and mother on our Facebook page, Channel 1. Lil Simon Peter, you're saying watching from Chokar, recognizing my mother, Dorcas Nasuba from Busia. John Kabuku, happy Mother's Day to my mom, and to all mothers out there. Paul Sandro Keter, tuned from Kechire, Kapsabet, happy Mother's Day. And Prince Evans, I'm tuned from Nambale, celebrating Mama Ann Musula. Dobson Galistas, I'm tuned from Kikambala. And of course, today I'll try and sample all your opinion because it's all about celebrating our moms, and happy Mother's Day once again. We now take a short commercial break. We still have plenty more coming up after this breather. Stay with us.
Next on.
Kwa nini kila wakati na uhasama na familia yangu lakini?
Familia yenu ni ajabu na naona fahari kubwa sana kuchuma fedha kutoka kwenu nyinyi.
Patikani kwa hivi sasa zimesitishwa ni hisa za kampuni ya Yanshu. Sawa, chukua na nyingine.
Hilo halina shaka, msijali kabisa.
Kupoteza kampuni ni jambo zuri On the next episode of Kona.
Tiso, you made me a promise.
What happened? You told anyone?
And Binti was asking all sorts of leading questions, which means that someone talked.
Binti anakuanga na macho kama ya mwewe na masikio kama ya mbwa.
Jemo almost raped Jackie.
When?
Thank you so much for staying with us. Welcome back. This is Channel 1 Weekend. President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to host a Jubilee Party parliamentary group meeting at State House on Monday, bringing together senators allied to the ruling outfit. In an invitation sent to the legislators on Sunday, the head of state, who is also the party leader for Jubilee, asked the senators to be at the venue by 8:30 a.m. ready for deliberations, which will border on matters touching on the party. Even though the agenda of the meeting remains a well-guarded secret, some of those who received the invitation intimated that service delivery in the city under the auspices of Nairobi Metropolitan Services will shape the discussions. Monday's program is also expected to create a platform for senators to raise matters of public concern in the party leader directly. Elsewhere, Kenya is set to enhance its capacity to handle the digital economy by supporting data, voice, video services, systems and applications following the unveiling of a new data center at the Konza Technopolis. ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru says the new temporary data center will further enhance the country's attractiveness for multinationals as a preferred regional data service hub.
Despite the continent's data center capacity doubling over the past 3 years, Africa currently only accounts for less than 1% of total available global data center capacity, according to data from Salam Analytics. The poor showing happening despite the continent being home to about 17% of the total world's population. To this end, the government is targeting to lower data costs and accessibility as demand for data services increase.
The whole country is now fully aware of why we need technology. We're doing all these video conferencing conversations, people are working from their homes. We need to have all the right connectivity. One of the challenges a country would face is that some of the applications that are being used, they are hosted outside of the country, which means we have to pay for international bandwidth, and if there's a problem with that cable, then the whole country can go off.
Speaking at the Konza Technopolis during a tour of the new temporary data center with the capacity to handle core functions of a smart city, the ICT Cabinet Secretary said the new data center will greatly enhance the country's ICT capacity.
We can allow our innovators to have space where they can test their applications. Those applications, if they are working well, they can scale them so that they can support a lot of people. So as we speak right now, we have the national fiber optic cable landed here, which is connected to 4 international submarine cables. But at the same time, with the Kenya Power, we now have another 2 independent fiber cables that will take us even to the other infrastructure that we have in the country.
Musheru says the project that includes a national cloud data center, smart ICT network, public safe city and smart traffic solutions, and a government cloud and enterprise service will give the country a head start among its peers.
The country is digitizing very fast, and we cannot wait 2 to 3 years for a building and infrastructure that is going to then be where we put in the facilities. So what we did is we put some containers and we put in the active equipment into those containers. And therefore, we are able to begin to use these services now as a country, while the buildings and the long-term infrastructure is being put in place. And all we'll do is we'll take the active equipment, put it into those buildings, and we're moving on.
The Kenyan market is currently served by Safaricom, Liquid Telecom, MTN Business, as well as other regional players who often face competition from multinationals who are able to outprice them. Alan Aoko for Channel 1 News.
In other news, the Kenya Ports Authority Finance General Manager Patrick Wambugu will be arraigned in court on Monday over 214 million shilling scandal involving Nyali Capital Limited Company. Nyoike was arrested by detectives from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on Sunday after Director of Public Prosecutions Nordin Haji approved the charges, citing conflict of interest after Wambugu allegedly used his office to facilitate a company linked to his wife to finance KPA suppliers while receiving payments directly from KPA.
Nyoike, a finance manager at Kenya Ports Authority, his wife Jacinta Wanjiko and Isaac Abunga, a clerical officer at Kenya Ports Authority, have been arrested in connection to irregular payments made to Nyali Capital Limited. The arrest by EACC detectives got a green light after the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, approved the allegations leveled against them, noting that the suspects had a case to answer. In a statement, the DPP's office on Sunday said Nyoike is accused of approving irregular payment amounting to 214.5 million shillings to Nyali Capital Limited, where his wife Jacinta Wanjiku Wambugu and his brother Alfred Hinga Nyoike worked as general manager and director respectively. An investigation launched by Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission established the questionable payments were made between October 2014 and March 2017. Other persons of interest, apart from Patrick Wambugu Nyoike, who served as the General Manager Finance at KPA, are Isaac Obunga, Clerical Officer at KPA, Jacinta Wanjiku Wambugu, General Manager at Nyali Capital Limited, Alfred Hinga, Director Nyali Capital Limited, Peter Ndichu Kinyanjui, a Director at Nyali Capital Limited, and the company Nyali Capital Limited. The DPP has authorized that the 5 individuals and the firm Nyali Capital Limited be charged with 4 charges, including conspiracy to commit corruption, abuse of office, failure to disclose private interest to KPA, and dealing with suspect property. The suspects are being held at Central Police Station in Mombasa, awaiting to be arraigned in court on Monday morning. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Thank you, Gladys. The government says it has developed in place or put in place precautionary measures to address the flooding situation being experienced in the country. Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa stated that construction of dams in flood-prone areas will be in addressing floods menace that continues to ravage various parts of the country.
Various parts of the country are currently experiencing heavy downpour, a situation that has left dozens dead and thousands displaced. While distributing relief food in Bunyala sub-county to families affected by floods who have been forced to seek refuge in 73 camps spread across the county, Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa said the government has put in place mechanisms to mitigate the adverse effects of floods.
Tukisema tunahitaji damu Lugari, tunahitaji damu upande wa Webuye, tunahitaji damu upande wa Tongare. Sio ni kwa sababu ni watu wa Lugari tu. Hizi damu zitatusaidia wote, the region, watoto wetu na generations to come.
Economic strategy that inapangwa. It should not be only for COVID. It should involve the floods. It should involve hiyo dhiki ambayo iko kule juu. Recovery program hizi vitu zote ziwekwe pale, alafu serikali itafute pesa so that we have a lasting solution.
This even as he said there was need to put in place more permanent measures that will put an end to the perennial problem.
We want to call out to our people in Western, wakubali, wapeane nafasi, haya mabwawa yajengwe. Hizi dikes, permanent dikes, vile mheshimiwa Wanjala, tunaomba hata wakati huu mgumu, tufikirie na tukubali. Hizi dikes zijengwe, tupeane mashamba, Lugari tupeane mashamba, damu ijengwe.
Meanwhile, a section of leaders in Baringo County have appealed to the government's intervention as floods continue to wreak havoc in the region.
As a county alone, we can manage to feed the people in various camps. Right here in Doboi, in the sides of El Jamus Ward, Magutani Ward, and some parts of the lower parts of Baringo North. I want to appeal to the national government to help us with some food stuff in order for us to be in a position of feeding our people.
Support the county government towards the solution of these floods. We are really in problem. Our people are being evicted by the floods. We want support in terms of food, in terms of medicine, in terms of nets, in terms of resettlement, the houses.
In Gogoine village, Kirinyaga County, 2 houses and 3 cows were buried and at least 200 trees of coffee plantations have been destroyed after a massive landslide was experienced in the area. The landslide hit the village at midnight following heavy downpour, which continues to be experienced across the county.
Naona ya kwamba tunasikia pahali tumesimama kuna manyumba ziko chini
lakini kwa neema zake Mwenyezi Mungu hakuna mtu hata mmoja ambaye amedhuriwa na hii mambo, isipokuwa nimesikia ng'ombe zimezikwa hapa, kuna granary ambazo zimezikwa, kuna nyumba ya kijana wa boma hii ambayo imezikwa.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Globally, 2 cabinet-level United States officials are said to be in self-quarantine after coming into contact with someone who had tested positive for COVID-19. The development, according to White House, has prompted the Oval Office to begin daily testing of all officials at the White House as a precaution to protect President Donald Trump. The U.S. death toll has climbed to over 80,000, even as states are opening or beginning to reopen.
Several top United States officials, including Center for Disease Control Director Robert Redfield, have gone into isolation after 2 White House staffers tested positive for the novel coronavirus. Parts of the building will undergo heightened levels of cleaning in the wake of the confirmed cases, while the Oval Office will begin daily testing of all officials at the White House as a precaution to protect President Donald Trump. The development coming as former President Barack Obama launched a scathing attack on Donald Trump's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, calling it an absolute chaotic disaster. Meanwhile, South Korea reported 34 additional cases of COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, as the spate of transmissions linked the club goers, threatening the country's hard-won gains in its fight against the virus. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in urged citizens not to lower their guard, but said there is no reason to panic amid worries of a new surge in coronavirus cases in the country. And United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced a 5-tier COVID-19 warning system in a televised address to the nation. In Russia, authorities have recorded 11,012 new cases of the coronavirus in the last 24 hours, bringing the nationwide tally to 209,688. Russian coronavirus cases overtook French and German infections this week to become the 5th highest in the world. Elsewhere, Djibouti, the tiny horn of African nation with the highest prevalence of coronavirus cases on the continent, plans to begin lifting lockdown measures largely for economic reasons. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases worldwide has surged past 4 million as some of the hardest hit countries prepare to phase out drastic restrictions despite lingering fears about a second wave of infections. There are now over 1.4 million recoveries and about 280,000 deaths. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Badi.
Policy experts say small-scale miners in the Kenyan extractives industry should continue with production if the sector is to withstand the current economic slowdown. The recommendations coming at a time when the mining industry has been badly battered by the coronavirus pandemic that has devastated the world's economy.
About the survival of SMEs in the country, given that they employ most of the workers in the country. But a small section of workers has not been looked into during this time of the pandemic. What about the artisan small-scale miner?
United Nations Development Program's Development Minerals Initiative, as well as field studies in the counties of Taita Taveta and Migori, found that an estimated 800,000 Kenyans, 1.7% of the population, were dependent on the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. However, with the current economic headwinds resulting from the coronavirus pandemic, mining activities have forced larger players to scale back, including community-based projects that support mining families.
There was a lot of discomfort amongst communities where minerals occur in terms of them being included within the whole mining space and them getting a fair share of the revenues that come out of mining. There are only some few examples where there were cases in which companies went out of their way to support the communities in which they carried out mining.
Extractives industry policy analyst Stephen Mwakesi observes that small-scale miners could help bridge the current shortfall.
There is a segment within the mining sector that truly needs a lot more support now that things are a bit tough. Initially, counties such as Kilifi and Taita Taveta had come out with directions stopping the carrying out of mining during this COVID-19 pandemic period. And of course, this led to a number of artisanal miners, the small-scale miners, having trouble making ends meet.
Mwakesi says that even as large players reposition themselves in slowed activities, small-scale miners can now take advantage of the sector.
The thing that we could be able to encourage at this particular moment is that counties and the government, and I know the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining has come out very clearly that such economic activities should not be put to a stop. The activities of quarries, the activities of mines, the activities of artisanal small-scale miners should not be put to a stop.
Mwakesi suggesting that a consolidated fund could help cushion individual miners in the long term.
We should come up with a proactive measure to ensure that the activities of these artisanal small-scale miners are encouraged from a stockpile basis, that we encourage them to continue producing the minerals that they have, and if possible, we could be able to set up a small-scale fund that will be able to purchase these minerals, store them up, and when the markets reopen, they can be able to be sold.
Kenya has seen progress in the extractives industry since the enactment of the Kenya Mining Act of 2016, but experts say further legislations are needed to make the sector more inclusive. Currently, several workers and facilitators in the artisanal and small-scale mining industry have either completely shut down or reduced their work output.
The extractive industry is not for the faint-hearted indeed. But with many sectors saturated with the common thing, maybe it's time that some of us take the biggest challenge of our lives and venture into something different in the hope of making that dollar. Alan Alko reporting for Channel 1 News in Nairobi.
Thank you, Alan. Back to the COVID-19 pandemic. The world is currently struggling with an extraordinary challenge, a pandemic that has introduced a new normal. However, the COVID-19 pandemic is not the first plague to face the globe, with the world having faced similar challenges that have seen respective generations embrace new skills, technologies to adapt the such crisis. But what can we learn from the past pandemics?
Well, since the dawn of time, the world has been ravaged by a number of pandemics that have changed the course of history, signaling the end of civilization and the beginning of a new era. Well, today we talk to a medical historian as we decipher through past pandemics in relation to the current coronavirus pandemic.
The COVID-19 disease, which was first reported in Wuhan, China, sent shockwaves across the globe. The response to the pandemic executed differently across affected nations. While some have resulted in total lockdowns, some have gone for cessations. Dr. Kenneth Ombongi, a medical historian from the University of Nairobi, gives an insight into pandemics.
The interesting thing is, 100 years later, a century later, the same responses, the same reactions that we gave to the Spanish flu pandemic is the same responses, the same measures of quarantine.
And with no advanced technologies in the past, Ombongi says developing vaccines or solutions to the pandemics was an uphill task.
It took years of trial and error to come up with the smallpox vaccine, for example. In fact, before that, the more traditional societies used to use the process of variolation. Variolation is when you use the germs from an infected person, you wrap on a wound on your body with the belief that you will get the mild form of a disease, and then your body will react and you acquire immunity.
Ombongi drawing parallels between the Spanish flu of 1918 that is estimated to have affected over 500 million people from South Seas to North Pole.
The same fear, the same paralysis that the 1918 Spanish influenza caused is the same fear, is the same paralysis that we have now.
And amid concern that Africa could suffer the brunt of the latest pandemic, Dr. Ombongi has an optimistic outlook for the region, saying it has advanced to levels of developing vaccines and cures for such pandemics.
Look at the efforts that are going on in our own Kenya Institute of Medical Research. Look at the efforts that are going on in our own University of Nairobi. our scientists are working in collaboration with the rest of the scientists in the world.
Other pandemics and endemics to have hit the globe include Ebola that ravaged West Africa in 2014-2016, claiming the lives of 11,325 people, and the Black Death that changed the course of Europe.
The most familiar factor among the pandemics is that the figures are always underreported or misclassified, calling on governments to prioritize the health sector to ensure that in case of an emerging pandemic, they'll always be ready. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robbie.
Thank you, Serafina, for that report. The coronavirus pandemic has disrupted social routines in the wake of strict guidelines issued by the government in an effort to control the spread of the virus. While the unknowns of what's coming next is bound to worry all and sundry, parents remain susceptible to introducing measures that could adversely affect their children. But what should parents do to offer calm and provide predictable routines?
Start with the neonates and the infants. These are those who are less than 1 year. They are some of the most vulnerable groups in the population. For this age group of children, they really depend on their caregivers, on their parents for their well-being. They need to breastfeed, they need to be taken to the immunization clinics, and they also need other health service delivery that pertains to their age. So in this period of COVID, for them, what we say is that the parents should keep up with the structure that they've set up in the home. The feeding times, the resting times, the playing times, and such. The parents should also ensure that they take care of themselves, because the child actually feels the stress in the parents, and it can destabilize a child. When the parent is visiting a place that will have people with the child, for example, the clinic, for these children, you don't put on masks. They are too young, so what we tell the parents to do is that if you can cover the child, we see very many women covering the child with blankets or with a kitamba, that's okay, but you never put a mask on a very young child's face. Also for this age group, we don't recommend use of the sanitizers. They have a very high alcohol content, and this can cause either dermatitis in the child because of that very high alcohol content, but also because of their thin skin, the alcohol can get absorbed into the child's system through the skin. So we don't really recommend use of hand sanitizers. It's best to just wash, and also put mittens on the child so that people don't keep touching your child. And yeah, social distancing is very key.
Let's now have a look at some sports. Remember, on the show Family Matters tonight, we are celebrating midwives. Of course, they really play a critical role in ensuring that women safely give birth, and also protection of the health of the newborns. Keep talking to us at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. Our two midwives are in the house, and they will be sharing with us their experiences and also what they are going through during this time that the world is battling COVID-19. The Kenyan Premier League is expected to announce their next course of action on Monday after Football Kenya Federation cancelled the league late last week, declaring Gor Mahia champions. Meanwhile, former Kenya national football team head coach Bobby Williamson has challenged the Football Kenya Federation to clear his 55 million shillings outstanding pay from his time in charge of Harambee Stars.
Bob Williamson, who managed Harambee Stars from 2014 to 2016 before being sacked and replaced by Stanley Okumbi, insists that Football Kenya Federation should use part of the anticipated FIFA funds to settle his debt. Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania are among countries said to benefit from the FIFA operational funding that is said to be released immediately as a relief plan to cushion the football community from the economic impact caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Williamson, who also coached the Uganda national team before coming to Kenya, was awarded 55 million shillings after he won a case he filed for unfair dismissal by FKF at the Employment and Labour Court in Nairobi. Despite the delay in payment, Williamson says he will not take the case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland, where another former Kenyan coach, Adel Amrouche, was also awarded 109 million shillings for wrongful dismissal. Elsewhere, KPL are set to announce their next move on Monday following FKF's decision to cancel the league and award Gor Mahia the 2019-2020 KPL title. The move was protested by the league managers, who insist they are the only ones who can make decisions affecting the top tier until their contract expires on September 24th. However, FKF has insisted the decision is well within their mandate and it will not be reversed. In the FKF-KPL 2017 agreement, the KPL was given the right to run the top tier and make decisions regarding the same.
Elsewhere, English Premier League champions Manchester City are eyeing Paris Saint-Germain midfielder Edouard Michel. City are said to be ready to make an offer to buy out the remaining year of the 17-year-old's youth contract before the 2020-2021 season. Michel is a France U17 international who had been shining for PSG's U19 side before the French leagues were postponed and then cancelled due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, if they are not able to agree a deal, City still hope to sign him when he becomes a free agent in 2021, when only training compensation would be due to the French club. And Spanish giants Real Madrid has given English Premier League side Arsenal up until June 15 to make a decision over Gabon international Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Madrid is among a number of elite clubs in Europe chasing the Ghana striker, who had just 13 months left on his contract in North London. Aubameyang is not expected to sign a new deal at the Emirates, leaving Arsenal with a decision to make between cashing in now or allowing his contract to run down. Madrid has weighed the possibility of a potential swap deal, including Dani Ceballos in their pursuit of Aubameyang. Ceballos, however, in the meantime, wants to return to Madrid for the 2020-2021 campaign after spending the season at Arsenal, but will only do so if he received assurance that he will play regularly in Zinedine Zidane's team.
It's just fantasy. Caught in a landslide.